In this video, we're going to be introducing one of the first flavors of Agile, and that is Scrum. So, like I said before, we've got a number of different flavors that take into consideration our Agile values and our Agile principles. And Scrum is the first one of these that we're going to be looking at. And it's actually one of the more popular Agile methodologies that exists. It focuses heavily on this idea of iterative and incremental development, and it's really well suited to software development tasks. So, the idea behind Scrum is really focused on this rugby type mentality, where a team as a unit is trying to get to the end goal and is trying to meet a set of requirements along the way. It's not up to an individual to get you there, it's up to the team as a whole to do it. And this is really where the origins of this come from. Scrum is really built on three different pillars, which is really key to its success. The first of these is transparency. In terms of transparency, what we're trying to do is we're really trying to come up with this common understanding and agreement within the team. Okay, examples of this are things like burn down charts, so you can see how well a team is doing. Daily stand-up meetings where the team is very transparent about what they did the previous day, the challenges that they've had. And also the transparency of something that's called the definition of done. And this is when we're actually saying, well, here are the different things that we need to meet in order to ensure that a set user story is completed. Having those things transparent and open from the beginning really helps in actually molding a team, and it's one of the things that's very important within Scrum. The next important thing within Scrum is this idea of inspection, and this idea of a team frequently looking at how a project is doing and keeping themselves on track. Again, this normally happens daily inside of your daily stand-up meetings. So a daily stand-up meeting, we'll cover it in a little bit more depth, but it's really this idea of your group meeting up once a day to talk about how the project is going. These ideas of inspection also happen within sprint review meetings with your clients, where your clients can actually see the work that you're doing after your iterative process, and your retrospectives, where instead of you looking at the code that you've created, you look at yourself as a team and trying to figure out, well, how can you work better for the next sprint that you're going to be doing, for the next time box event that you're going to be working on. During these events, the team really tries to inspect themselves, inspect the code, the product that they're creating, and reflect on how well it's gone in terms of the project milestones that they've done, and also the amount of work and how well they've worked as a team. And finally, the third pillar inside of Scrum is this idea of being able to adapt to change. And this is something that's very, very common inside of Agile. Okay, adaptation is really the secret sauce for all of Agile, especially within Scrum though. Scrum teams really try and look for improvement at every opportunity. They're always trying to figure out how they can make themselves better. The idea with this always looking for improvement is that you aren't just saying that you're going to be adapting to change, you're embracing this adaptation. You're saying, well, we're going to be changing next time anyway, let's just go for it. Okay, and these are the three things that we really want to consider within Scrum. This diagram here really kind of shows the different aspects of Scrum and how they all work together, along with the different actors that are present within it. Okay, we've got three different areas here. We've got the pre-game, which is really the sprint planning area. We've then got this development area in the middle, which is where our sprint is taking place, our sprint execution. And then we've got our post-game, which is our sprint review and our retrospective. We've got a number of different people that are involved in this process along the way. We've got the product owner, who is the person that's really responsible for actually deciding the different areas of the project that's going to be working on. We've got the Scrum Master, who's responsible for the project and providing servant leadership to those inside of the Scrum team. And we've got the Scrum team itself, so the people that are going to be carrying out the work. During each sprint, so this kind of 1 to 4 week period, we'll be having a 1 week sprint inside of your group work. However, it's more traditionally a 2 or 3 week period inside of industry. This is where the product is designed, coded, integrated, tested, and then finally delivered. Okay, the business is the one that's going to be setting up the priorities, but the team is going to be self-organizing themselves to figure out the best way to do this delivery and to figure out the best way that they can actually manage their time. So like I said, there's three primary roles that exist inside of a Scrum team. The first of these is the product owner. This is traditionally someone either that has a product owner certification and has an understanding of the exact thing that's going to be created, or it could be a customer from the company that you're working with. This is meant to represent the voice of the customer. Okay, anytime that you have a thing that you're working on, you're thinking about adding new features, you go to the product owner to ask them, okay? Those are the people that decide what the priorities are in terms of this is a high return on investment item. The second actor is your Scrum Master, and like I've said, they really play the role of servant leader for the team. If a team needs something, the Scrum Master is the one that goes and finds it for them. Okay? If a team needs free development space, it's the Scrum Master's responsibility to figure out how they get it. Okay? They're also the ones that are there to embrace the Scrum values and to really push these agile values and principles to the team at every opportunity they get. Okay? They'll be the ones that are saying, well, why are you creating documentation instead of working on code? Why are you looking at the tools instead of looking at how you're working as a team? And then finally, the majority of the people inside of a Scrum team are the development team themselves. And these are the people that are actually going to be developing the software, okay? Developing these shippable elements that can actually give value to the customer. Teams contain people that have cross-functional skills. We don't expect team members to be experts in everything, but we do expect them to actively contribute, and they might have one specialty, but they might have other areas that they are also competent in, okay? This can include things like software analysis, design, back-end and front-end development, testing, deployment, and if we do need to do any documentation, that might be another one of the cross-functional skills that exist. Inside of our scrums, we've got 4 different points or meetings, okay? Or we call them ceremonies because they like to be a little bit pretentious with it, okay? We've got our 4 different ceremonies. The first of these is the sprint planning ceremony. Inside of our sprint planning ceremony, what we're doing here is we're meeting with the customer to try and figure out how long it's going to take for us, or what things we want to actually do inside of our sprint. Okay, what things are we going to be taking from our product backlog, which we'll talk about in a second, and which of these are we going to be using inside of this sprint ourselves. We also have our daily Scrum meetings, our daily stand-ups. This is where at the start of every day, normally I would recommend that you have these first thing in the morning, 9 o'clock, where everyone gets on Teams or Skype or Zoom and says, okay, this is what I've done the previous day. This is what I'm working on today. Here are the problems that I'm facing. This is a very, very important part of the team, of the project. The benefits here is that it lets everyone in the group see what everyone else is doing. So you're keeping that transparency, that openness up. But it's also showing the things that you're struggling with. We don't show the things that we're struggling with because, well, we want to kind of make fun of you in front of your peers. We show them because your peers might be able to help you with them. Your Scrum Master can take on their servant leadership role there and say, okay, we're facing this problem. How can we get over it? Does anyone else have expertise in this area that they can help Mike out with for this? Do you need any more resources? Do you need me to go and find you something so that I can help you with this personally? And it's taking on these roles is one of the most important parts, and actually kind of showing that these idea of kind of saying that I'm not overly comfortable with this, it can really help. Remember, fail fast, fail often. The next ceremony that takes place is our sprint review. So these are meetings where all of our stakeholders meet up. So this could be your product owner, Scrum team, development team. They meet together and the development team gives a demo of the working software that's been created so far. They show all of the functionality that's been carried out. And they show how that functionality actually fits in with the bigger picture. The customers can then give some feedback and advice on how things have been going. And then they can also start to look a little bit at, well, what are we going to be doing in the next sprint as well. Finally, we've got our sprint retrospective, and this is really just done with the Scrum Master and the development team. And this is more of an inward-looking opportunity for the team to try and figure out, well, what went well in the last sprint, what didn't go so well, how can we change things so that they can work better in the future, okay? You want to try and focus on the things that go well, figuring out how you can make sure that those things happen more. We're also trying to look at the things that didn't go so well and figuring out how you can kind of put some risk strategy management things in place to try and cope with them if these things occur again. Okay, we've got different artifacts that exist within our scrums as well. Like I said, we've got our product backlog. So this is just all of our requirements in one big list. We write our requirements as user stories. A subset of our product backlog is called our sprint backlog, and this is a list of all of the user stories that we're wanting to try and complete inside of an individual sprint. Each of our user stories is going to have something called a definition of done. We're probably going to have a very standard definition of done that applies to every single user story. This is really just a set of rules that we can use that can start to help us in understanding, well, how do I know that this has been completed? What are the different steps that I have to do to make sure that this user story has been completed? So this can be things like the code has been reviewed by someone else in the team. We have deployed this to our test server and everything works as it's meant to. The client has looked at this and they are happy with what's happening. We can also have another artifact that's called our product increment. Our product increment is really just the code that we've developed at the end of a sprint that we then show to the customer. And then the final artifact is probably one of the only bits of documentation, and this is our burn down chart. And this is really just a visual way for us to see how much work we've carried out in the process of our sprint. So we can have a look at this and figure out how many user stories have been completed, how many story points have we ticked off of our list. And then from this, we can start to get a little bit of a better idea about what our burn down rate as a team can be. And that's a way of saying we can start to figure out how much work we as a team can do. Okay, so going back to this, we've now got a better idea about how all of this fits together. We've got our product backlog on the far side. This is a list of all of the different things that we are going to accomplish in this project. Okay, we have our sprint planning meeting, with that taking place with the product owner, because they're the ones that understand where the return of investment is for each of the different items inside of our product backlog. Them combined with the team and the Scrum Master will actually start to have a better idea about what they want to do in a given sprint, and they'll create their sprint backlog as a list of items from our product backlog that they want to try and carry out. The sprint then takes place over a 1 to 4 week period, and every single day we'll have our daily Scrum meeting so that people inside of our development team can say what they've been doing, what they're wanting to do today, and what challenges they're having. The Scrum Master can help out using their servant leadership skills to help in trying to fix any problems that exist. At the end of every sprint, we will show our customer our completed code. Once we've shown them our completed code, we can then start to have our own individual sprint retrospective, where we start to look at a group at how we performed in that sprint and how we can improve going forward. This sprint repeats again and again until we've managed to complete our entire project. So that, in a nutshell, is Scrum. In the next video, we're going to be looking at extreme programming, and we'll look at how we can use XP skills to start to make your software development even better.